And we are live. Happy Sunday, everyone. Welcome back to another beautiful conversation with Gordana and I.
Mm.
Gordana, how are you? Happy Sunday.
Uh, Happy Sunday, Lucas, and happy Sunday, everyone watching. I'm doing great. Today is a beautiful day in Sweden. It's springtime, so it's beautiful, beautiful today.
Mm,
And I'm so happy that we're doing these because I love our Sunday live conversations. They are so good.
Same. I am so thankful we're doing this, and it's really beautiful the feedback we've gotten from other people watching, and
Mm.
we that's what we want. Everyone, we want to be a blessing to you and help you start your week off. As I'm talking right now, I'm like, oh, do I have my throat sounds a little raspy. We're gonna get
Yeah.
through it. It's gonna be a great day.
Yeah. Well, we have a great topic today because we are talking about how to um, relearn how to be yourself again and to rediscover the creative, joyful nature that we actually bring with us when we're born here. And then something happens and we forget who we are. And you come to a place where you and I are, where we understand that I need to relearn who I really am because I know who I really am when I enter this world and then I forget it. And then when I reach a certain age, I start to think about, am I really living my purpose? Is this
Mm,
really what I want in my life? And
yeah.
that's when we start to figure out what do we need to change in order to find ourselves again. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into that because we've been talking about the first imprints that our parents make upon us and the contamination we have from there. But if you happen to have great parents and you didn't um, get wrong beliefs about yourself from your parents, then school is the next thing that might change
Right.
certain things for you in life. So we're going to talk about what kind of imprints we might have been contaminated with in school and how to change them and how to go back to this joyful, curious,
Yes.
love seeking spirit that we actually are in this reality.
It's so important. It's so important. You know, the um, the school sets the model. If there's trauma at school, it sets the model of the worldview of how the world will be. And if if kids aren't safe in home and then they go to school and then that energy for me, for instance, I always attracted the bullies. I
Mm,
always attracted being a bully because that's the energy I was just victim. And
yes.
then school became traumatic and I had to learn how to be a scam artist, like outthink all these people because I didn't want to fight them. So I was
Mm,
always thinking other ways around and escape routes.
mm,
Um,
mm,
but I learned something early on. And when I speak, in fact, Macklemore, the rapper, I gave a keynote talk or opening talk before he came on stage at this big concert. And I asked everyone to raise their hands. How many of you at one point when you were in school, you were trying to be better, do better, think better, explore your own dreams? How many of you had someone turn on you and either say these words directly or make you feel this way? Who do you think you are? Do you think you're better than me?
mm.
Who do you think you are? And I said, raise your hand. And so there's a sea of people, and the hands
Yes.
started going up like this. And I said, look around.
Mm,
Look around. We all experience this experience at school where the crowd turns on us and says, what do you think? You're better than me? And I said,
mm,
sadly, our response is no. And we retreat back into the faceless, nameless crowd. And we wake up one day and we think, what life is this? Whose life is this?
mm.
So I'm so glad we're talking about this today.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, school can affect you in so many different ways. For me, I had hell at home, so school was kind of a picnic for me. I felt like, oh, this is great. I love this because I learned very, very quickly what I needed to do in order to get the love from my teachers. So again, I got the love from them, but actually I never explored who I was because I was pleasing them in order to get something in return, their love. Also, the bullies on the schoolyard, even though I look like a very tiny woman, I was fighting them so hard. I couldn't, I I am allergic to injustice, and that was something that I couldn't erase within me. So I was fighting with the bullies. I was trying to protect other children there who couldn't protect themselves. But again, I feel like there was no protection for me there. I had to do this. The grown-ups are supposed to help us navigate through this. The grown-ups are supposed to teach us that this world isn't a dangerous place. As a child, you shouldn't be fighting for your right or for other children's right. This is the grown-ups that were supposed to do that, but they never did. There was another thing which I was thinking about, which is much more subtle, and yet it is overwhelming in a way. What happens when we start school is that we go from being in a heart space to a mind space.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really mind-boggling how fast this happens. I remember my first school day. I was sitting there and I was listening to this woman talking. That was my teacher. And I was thinking, what is she talking about? And then I started looking out the window because this was boring. This was into my mind space. She wanted me to go into my mind, to become more intellectual, not emotional, in my heart space. So she was on, and I was looking through the window, seeing an airplane, and there was a dove flying, and it was so beautiful on the outside, clouds, much more interesting than what she was talking about. I was in the now moment watching the clouds. And then I turn around and my father is sitting there because this is the first day of school. And he's pointing with his finger like this. And I look underneath my chair, and then I look back at him and go, nothing there.
That's awesome.
Because
Oh,
I was in the now moment. He was pointing down, what is underneath me? Well, it's my chair, and I will look there. He was pointing so that I will be reading in my book or trying to follow what the woman was telling me. She was teaching me something, whereas I was more interested in the experience of the room, the outside, which means that school takes us not just from our hearts, it actually takes us out of the now moment into some kind of future, because it's teaching you something about the reality. It is not in the now moment. It is projecting yourself in the future. And the way I see reality, this is where my ego is awakened, because I start to plan. I get a schedule. I need to wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning. I have to plan my clothes. Everything is in the future. Nothing is in the now moment. Nothing of what I want to have in the now moment.
right.
This is the first separation. Unless you've had it at home, this is where you're going to get it. Out from your heart, out from the now moment, and into your mind, and planning for the future, ego triggered.
Mm,
And then you do this for how many years do we do this? We do this until we're grown-ups, and
right.
then we just continue the pattern.
Right.
And I think that is when we forget our purpose in life,
Mm,
because our purpose is to explore this reality.
yes. 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 I was saying to a buddy the other day, I've said it to him twice now. I said, the person that you think you are deep down, not the one that you don't want to admit, or the one deep down, the person you think you are, you are. But that
Yes,
takes going back before all those layers, before the school, before
yes,
the trauma, and rediscovering the heart, rediscovering
yes.
this now moment, this beautiful soul that resides in this container. Who we
Mm,
really are is that soul emanating in
yes.
this space. And he was like, all right, I've heard you say this a few times. I'm like, you don't have to try to be
Mm,
anything other than who you really know you are deep down. That's who you are.
mm. Absolutely. Because when we do not do this, we start believing that there is something wrong with us. I remember myself walking home from the first day of school, and my father says to me, "What's wrong with you? Why aren't you doing like the other children are doing? Why aren't you paying attention?" And I was thinking, okay, so what's wrong with me? There must be something wrong with me, because he's an authority and he tells me that there is something wrong with me. Now, as a grown up, I can look at this and I can say, okay, I won't ask the question, what's wrong with me? I'll ask the question, what happened to me? Because what happened to me was wrong, not me. I didn't do anything wrong. I was doing exactly what I was supposed to do in this reality, explore the now moment. But it's because the grown-ups have made up a world where I need to adapt to that world. And if I do not adapt quickly enough, well, then there's something wrong with me. Nothing is wrong with me. I have to look at what happened to me in order to see how I can untangle myself from what happened to me. And it's an easy thing to do when we shift the perspective from asking, what's wrong with me? Why am I not as everyone else? Why am I not adapting? To what happened to me? Why do I have to adapt? What actually did happen to me when I was a child? Looking back at it now, I can see that that was his fears, because he didn't have the privilege of going to school. So he thought that I had the privilege of doing this. He didn't ask me, do you want this? What do you want to do in your reality? We never ask our children. It's just that there is a school system and you need to go and educate yourself. Otherwise, you'll become a loser. This is the belief system that we have, or you'll flip hamburgers at McDonald's.
Right.
And no one wants to do that. So we listen to the grown-ups and then we adapt to a system which will, without a doubt, trigger ego, without a doubt, pull us out from the now moment, which will create enormous pain later on in life. And we will not understand how we got there. If you go back in time, you'll find what happened to you and why it happened to you. It's nothing wrong with anything. It's just that it happened and we need to change. When we shift that perspective, when we start thinking about how can we stay in our heart space for a longer period of time and use our intellect, not be used by it as in school, that's when the real shift will be. And that's when we start creating a better society for everyone. But the way it is right now, I don't think that our educational system is helping us live our purpose here.
I agree to that. I said like, we were at this get together with a whole bunch of beautiful people. We're all sorts of conversations yesterday, and we're talking about government, we're talking about politics, we're talking about religion, talking about all the world changes. And I thought, how funny is it that government exists and it exists at the barrel of a gun? That's essentially what government is. I mean, you
Control,
can't control. And then we send our children to government schools to teach them. I mean, it's like yesterday I had this big aha moment, like what is this entire thing? And then we beat ourselves up, or we live in this, not you and I mean, yeah, humanity lives. I was gonna say we if we don't detach and reclaim our sovereignty, reclaim our soul, heal the trauma, go back and look at what happened to us, how we were treated in school and at home. Unless we do that, we are still in this school, like fish in the sea, swimming in one direction. And it's like, wait, where are we going? Is someone going to eat us at the end? Like, is this a school of tuna, or like they're going to process? This is ridiculous.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's about understanding where we are sending our children. I could see that with my own son, because I remember him walking home with me from his first day in school. And he was like, I am going to have a party when this ends in 9 years. He was planning a party in 9 years because he knew that this was going to be for 9 years. And in Sweden, well, you can't take your children out of school because it's mandatory. You have to put them in school. So I knew that I had to put him in school, and yet I could see how it made him different, how it compartmentalized his thinking, how it made him less present and more in some kind of fearful future of not being good enough, because he's always compared to others in school. This is what school does to you. It compares you to others. It makes you compete with others. And that is, again, to miss the point of being here. We're not here to compete, because this is a Darwin way of thinking. This is like the fittest will survive. Or in our case now, we think that we've evolved with this thinking by saying that the one that adapts to change the fastest will survive. That's insane, because what we need to do is start focusing on survival and thinking about thrive, because that is what this reality is about. If you think about thrive, then the ones that are calmest, the ones that are that understand compassion, those are the ones that will evolve the entire population, not the ones that adapt the quickest or that are the fittest. But if you're put in school, in a classroom where there are 30 other children, and the fittest and the ones that adapt the fastest to the change are the ones that rule, of course that will create a world of division.
Right.
I was very fast to adapt to change. That is why I got the best grades. I could go to any school I wanted. And yet I sat there, I didn't know who I was, because the education system does not give me time to reflect, not give me time to explore. It just wants me to learn and then be checked. Did you learn what we told you to learn? And I was a master at this. Oh my God, I learned so quickly because they gave me, I got praise when I did that. I didn't have any praise at home. Well, I'll do anything here. That's how you create people pleasing, needy civilization. Very easy, actually, when you look at it. We have to shift from thinking that we need to survive here, because that's not what it's about. It's about how do we make this place a beautiful place for everyone? How do we make everyone thrive? That's what we need to look at. We're looking at it from the wrong perspective.
Yes. We're looking at it from their perspective, and the there being those that cause the trauma, those that cause the conditional love, those that cause even the condition of where you rank with other people. Says that there's a value on higher those who can perform. And intrinsically, if we look at the soul level, we are all equal. We are all the same breath that you breathe, I'm breathing. It just happens to be in a different part of the world, but it's the same air. It's the same. It's the same presence. And that's why when I do the work and you do the work and we rise, and now we do this, and then other people do the work, we all rise out of this quicksand where you can't, it's never enough. It's never enough in the system, but we can detach. That's the good thing. We can leave, we can heal, we can reclaim our sovereignty.
Absolutely. I mean, understanding that competition will never lead us forward, and yet everything we do in school is about competition, because you are always evaluated, you're always surveilled. What are you doing now? Why aren't you doing it? You're always underneath some kind of eye looking at you, evaluating everything you do. And if you're sitting in contemplation, reflecting upon your life, they would say, stop daydreaming, do something important, do your homework. Now you can ask yourself, what does that mean to do my homework? It's not enough that you're in school 8 hours, then you have to bring it home and do your homework. What is homework? It is some kind of knowledge that we are supposed to swallow and then
regurgitate,
spit out again. Yes, I was looking for the right word.
That's right. Utter forth
And then,
eloquently. Yes, that's
yes,
right.
and then we get the grade, then we get evaluated, then we will know if we measure up to the other ones, or we might even be better than everyone else. I have been asking myself this question, what is this knowledge actually? Because the real knowledge, the things that we really want to know about this reality, we can only get that from firsthand experience. But what we get in school is secondhand information told by someone else who maybe got it from a third source.
Right.
That's how we get that information. And I want to read a chapter from my book. It's a very short one about knowledge. Let's see if I can Okay, so here we go. Knowledge isn't power. You know how they say that knowledge is power? Well, here it is. Knowledge isn't power. The right knowledge is power.
Mm.
Knowledge has nothing to do with quantity and everything to do with quality. What's the use in having lots of knowledge about useless things? So, what then is the right knowledge? All information that sets your spirit free is the right knowledge. Knowledge that connects you to your core.
Mm.
Everything else is conditioning that restricts you from expanding and evolving. So, again, if it allows you to breathe, then it's the right knowledge. If it doesn't, it's not the right knowledge. It's not knowledge for you. And I am
Mm.
convinced that knowledge isn't power. The right knowledge is power.
Yes. 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 Experience. I've said this. I say this a lot. I say it on my podcast. I've said it to you many times, and even on these
Mm.
lives. A man with an experience is never at the mercy of a man with an argument. So
Yes.
the experience is what, it's actually sad that they again, teachers, school education system, religious figures,
Mm.
politicians, um, keep us from exploring so that we can
Mm.
know for ourselves versus
Yes.
they tell me. And yes,
Yes.
there are consequences. Yes, I might die, I might live, but that's life. That is the
Mm.
livingness that
Yeah.
that's our right to do so. It's not anyone else's to hedge us from being into
Mm.
the only one-sided view of this entire existence.
Mm.
And when we have that experience, then anyone that presents any counter information, we can listen to it, we can sit with it, but we're not threatened by it. And that's
Mm.
massively important because so many, we're talking about school and what it did. When new information gets presented that might counter the authoritarian narrative that was presented in this knowledge that we've had to regurgitate,
Mm.
and new information comes, we feel threatened. Well, I got value from regurgitating this information, but now you're giving me new information that counters this information. What does that mean
Mm.
about me if these people who gave me love, quote unquote, in school, will they no
Mm.
longer love me? Will I no longer be accepted? Where am I? What does this mean about me? And this is the whole point of why we're talking about this, is you exist before we exist, before any of these people, our parents,
Mhm.
our school traumas, our
Mm.
soul is here. So
Yes. Yeah.
it's wild.
Absolute.
It's
Yes.
wild.
I mean, of course, it's not about disconnecting and just being in your heart space. It's a lot of being in your head space too. Intellect, your analyzing capabilities, understanding stuff. You need to be in your head space too. But if you disconnect from your heart space, which we always do in school, it's impossible to stay in your heart space because then you need to talk about your feelings. And how will you do that when you're in an environment? Well, they will evaluate you. You need to adapt to the right feelings so that the evaluation of you will be good. But that doesn't mean that you're doing anything that you want to do. You're not being in the now moment. You're not exploring the world. You're just learning how to adapt to something so that you will be loved there, or that is not even loved. You want to be accepted
Mm.
because the pain of not being accepted is too hard. And that's why we want to be accepted wherever we are. When I was doing master classes many years ago, I remember that we had um, a part of the master classes was about reflection.
Mm.
And these were people in the advertisement business. And when we said, well, you have to sit down half an hour now and you need to reflect upon what you just experienced here, there were like question marks, every one of them. What does that mean to reflect? Many
Mm.
of them sat like this and said, well, what does it mean? How do I reflect? Well, write down your thoughts about this. They didn't know how to do it because we're not allowed in school to reflect, to ask questions. What does this mean to me?
Right.
How is this mirroring back who I am? Who am I in relationship to the information that I just got? That's a reflection. And they do not wish you to reflect upon this. They want you to learn a certain thing and then to repeat that so that they will know that you've learned a certain thing. I had enormous problems with history in school because we were reading about Swedish kings and wars and conquering parts of Europe. And I was thinking, why are they doing this? I do not get that. And it's very hard to pinpoint something in time if it's not affecting you emotionally. And to me, it was, why would I want to remember a war? Why is this important for me today to remember a war which a king fought 1565?
Yeah.
It has no value to me. I don't understand why is this important. Thinking about this later on, I know why, because my soul tells me this isn't the right knowledge, because history is written by the victors, the ones that won the war. That doesn't mean that it is the truth. No war is actually worth remembering and exploring in history this way. It's not worth it. And that's why I didn't want to learn it. My soul told me, don't do this. So I had to work very hard with this. I had to memorize stuff. This is how I learned how to make notes, which will make it easier for me to have a photographic memory of my notes so that I could just transfer it through me onto the paper and get my grades. I never remembered it. It's like allowing it through me, but nothing sticks because it is meaningless.
Yes. Oh man, that's so good. And to our um every lettered degreed person out there watching,
Yes.
these are great questions. I watched I had Dr. Tommy John on my podcast the other day, and he just burned his degrees live on Instagram. He's like, what are these? He's like, people listen to me because I keep these, you know, I forget how much money he said he spent, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars on education to get his become a doctor. And he's like, no one knows you better than you know you.
Mm.
So these degrees
Exactly.
nothing, and he burnt them on. It was pretty intense. I thought, boy, that's so interesting. We are so conditioned to get these degrees or get this level of acceptance by those who forced us this knowledge.
Mm.
And it takes a lot of humility. I think everything we're even talking about, we're not projecting right or wrong. We're inviting people to have enough humility to kind of detach from the energy of all this knowledge in school and to look at it and say, how might I have been affected, imprinted from
Mm-hmm.
the children, from the teacher, from the pressure, from the grades, from the homework? That's such a good point. Homework. I
Mm.
mean, it's the worst. yet, and yet here we are all trying to, then we get the jobs and we have families, and it's just constantly. And I think that reflection. So how
Mm.
that's fascinating that they struggled with reflection, because reflection's everything. It's everything.
Reflection is everything, of course. You have to sit down and think about this. How is this affecting me? What is my relationship to this? This is how you grow. Of course, there is knowledge out there that we're supposed to look at because it gives us a mirror back who we are at this moment in time and space. And you can say, well, this means something to me and this doesn't. And it's okay, because what we're doing in school is that every single piece of knowledge needs to mean something to you. You are in relationship to it, even if it doesn't mean anything to you. So you have to fake it in order to get your grades. That makes you, that fragmentizes us because we can never be authentic when we are doing this. I could not say that history didn't interest me because it felt like it was written by the victors. And what makes them right? What makes them right?
That's
Of
right.
a hero in one country is a villain in another country.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
about the belief system. So, what am I doing here? I'm actually adapting to belief systems which are set by other people, not by me.
Mm.
And I think that's where the danger is, because if you're not questioning it, if you're not saying, how do I feel about this? Who am I in relationship to this information? That's a reflection, by the way, to think that way. So
Right.
if you're not reflecting upon I mean, were you able to question the things that you were taught in school? Could you say, excuse me, but I really don't think this is the way it is, as a 10-year-old boy?
No,
Would you ever do anything like that? No, you wouldn't.
no. I was so afraid of if I, yeah, no, I would not cause anything that would even draw attention to me back home,
Yeah.
because it would have been hell. Would have been hell.
Mm,
I'd say in my TED
mm,
talk when I was in third grade, I will never forget this moment. I was like shaking, sobbing at my desk. I got 48 out of
mm.
100 on a math assignment. So math has never been,
Yeah.
I've never
Yeah.
like, I've gotten better at math the more I've
Mm.
healed, because that side of my brain was really shut down from the trauma. So
Yes.
really
Yes.
it's fascinating. So many things have become better in my life. My health, my physical health, my ability to think, my creative ability, all these things have flourished
Mm-hmm.
more since I've done the healing and all this work. But I couldn't do math. And in third grade, I got a 48 out of 100 on a math assignment. And all the kids leave, and I am shaking, sobbing, begging my teacher not to let me bring this home.
Mm,
Begging her. I'll never, begging her, because if I would have brought that home,
mm,
I mean, truly, I didn't think I would be able to show up the next. I would. I don't know what would happen to
mm,
me, but it was terrible. So you asked, would I ever question anything? Absolutely not. Just tell me
mm,
what to do and let me do it. And that's where I
mm,
became a scam artist. I really did, because
mm,
I couldn't directly ask questions, and I had no freedom at home. So then I looked for
mm,
other ways, which has helped me in life, but also took me down paths I didn't want to go, where I started scamming, and I started looking for other ways to
mm,
do things. And that cost me too later on in life. A lot of things cost me. In fact, I'll just tell a quick story because I feel like this is
mhm,
appropriate. So when I was 20, I attempted suicide. And actually, after I survived, I wrote, inward reflection leads to outward correction.
mm,
And I had never inwardly reflected on myself. I never really thought like why I was the way I was.
mm,
But when I was 19 years old, I was driving with a buddy. He was driving my car, and a guy hit us and then ran, or hit us with his car and drove off.
mm,
So we called the cops, and my buddy said, "Tell me you're driving. Tell me you're driving." And I was like, I'm driving." And then I didn't think anything of it. But then when the police came and they caught this guy, he's like, "Tell me you're driving." So I told him, I just wrote on the
mm,
police report that I was driving.
mm.
Um, Everything else was true except one little thing: who was driving.
Yeah.
Not me. He
That's.
was, but he wanted
Mhm,
me to do it. Say I did it. So I said I did it. And I forgot all about it. It was one wild night. We weren't drinking. We were just driving. And um, I completely forgot about it. When I attempted suicide, my life changed. Everything changed. I never thought of one day before 20 years old. And all of a sudden I get subpoenaed to be a witness
mm,
against this guy in the courts. And I knew I had to tell the truth.
mm,
And so I called the prosecutor and I said, I, I just want you to know everything was right about that night, but I wasn't driving. And then it questioned my integrity, what? And I said, I've had a massive life change, and I used to
mm,
lie,
mhm.
do whatever to get away with stuff. And
A
I'm coming out.
survival mechanism. Yeah.
Yes. And so I ended up having both of us, my buddy and I, both had to go to court. I was the only one called up as the witness. And I sat there, and the judge looked at me and said, did you lie on a police report? I said, yes, that's a crime. The bailiff's here. willing to take you away. Anything you say now will be held against you in this court of law. And thankfully, the prosecutor had mercy on me. And she's like, I don't know why you lied, but we don't want to prosecute. And I'm like, that was like a change in my life where living in integrity, telling the truth.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, that's a story of, of how
Yes.
from school age behavior carried on into later early adulthood.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Lies are complicated. Truth is always easy.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
always easy. But that's not what they teach you in school, actually, because why you couldn't do math, for instance, is because when you are in fear, you're operating on a very low frequency, which doesn't open your mind. It actually shuts it down. And if you're always in that space where you are in a low frequency space, you will get the feeling or the belief that you are not intelligent enough. But it's a question of being in fear. I had the same thing in school with math. I thought that I couldn't do math. And then when I was a grown up, I went back and I was going like, what? This is easy. Why couldn't I do this? Why did I have to work so much on this? Because I had a belief that I wasn't intelligent enough because there was a habitual way of being in fear all the time. And it lowers your frequency. You can't see anything. You can't see anything beyond the frequency of fear. How many children are afraid in school? I know that there are many children that are afraid of in school. Either they're afraid of their classmates, the bullies, or they're afraid of their teachers, or they're afraid to bring home bad grades.
Right.
So regardless of what fear it is, it's still based on fear. How do you explore this reality in an open, vulnerable way if you feel like you need to hide stuff, if you feel like you need to lie in order to get out of situations which you actually shouldn't even be in the first place?
That's right. That's right.
So of course you will have the wrong image of yourself because you're using your imagination in the wrong way. You're always told, are you stupid? What's wrong with you? Why can't you be like everyone else? Those are the things that we teach our children to believe in about themselves. And of course, later on in life, you'll ask yourself, what's wrong with me? No, what happened to me is the right question.
Yes.
That's where we're going. We actually want to know what happened to me and why did I, or not even why, how do I shift back to my normal state of being, which is curiosity, joy, love, vulnerability, openness, heart space. That's where we come from. This is who we truly are. So we actually need to figure out ways in which to go from headspace down to heart space and be there, reflect upon what it is we're exploring in this reality, to create a reality where fear is not the dominating frequency. Because what we believe is what we will perceive. Every single one of us, as a society, as an individual, it doesn't matter. It's the same fractal working through this dimension where we are.
Yes.
What we believe, we perceive. So what is it that we believe in school? We believe that if we are not good enough and we will always be surveilled, we will always be controlled. When we grow up, we allow ourselves to be surveilled, we allow ourselves to be controlled because that is what we learned. This is the belief system that we are perpetuating. And even worse, we allow our children to be born into it and learned the behavior.
Right.
I feel like there needs to be a shift. I mean,
Yes.
I love, there is a teacher. He passed away a couple of years ago, but an American teacher, and his name is John Taylor Gatto. I want everyone listening to go and Google him, John Taylor Gatto. He has been a New York City Teacher of the Year in 1989, 1990, 1991, and the New York State Teacher of the Year in 1991. He has written several books. One of them, which I do recommend for everyone to read, is Dumbing Us Down. That's the name of the book, Dumbing Us Down, because the educational system is not supposed to dumb us down. It's supposed to open us, to help us become who we truly are. And the way he sees it, and he has lots of experience from this, is that it is actually doing the opposite. It is dumbing us down. So if you haven't read the book, go and read it, because it will help you understand what a belief system does to us. A system of believing that you need to go to school, you need to learn all those things in order to be accepted by society. Yes, accepted by a society which is flawed in its way of being already. If you want to change it, you have to understand, who am I in relationship to this? To reflect upon that. So I really love this man, John Taylor Gatto, because he is so down to earth and he gets it. He really does, because he was in it. His entire life was about educating children.
Well, talk about, and that's why humility is so important. And there is no unity without humility. There's,
Yeah.
it just cannot be, because if we all bring our egos into being right, then we'll never have the humility to listen and to explore together the world together. And I share one, talking about dumbing us down. The King James Bible, which came out in 1611, was written in a 5th grade reading level. It's written for 11-year-olds. That is how far we have come in our ability cognitively to hear words, read words, speak words. Just words, not concepts. I mean, it's not that you have to grasp those concepts, just the words. That, people, I tell people that, and they're like, what? Seems like I'm reading, like, some physics class when you read that book, but no, at the time was written in 5th grade reading level. And I use that as a contrast to say, hey, maybe we're not this evolved species that we're told. Here's a contrast. How do we get out of this matrix system to reclaim our own humanity, our own beauty? Oh, if I could do one thing for the world, it was that we would reclaim our soul. And in this, we could how did they create these? I mean, we can create so much beauty together when we come from that place of heart and soul and mind, not just mind, like you're saying, not severing the heart from the head, but the wholeness, the holistic side of us. And I think we're going to that place, but there's definitely a pressure building right now between staying in that system and being free out of the system.
Absolutely. It's not about changing the system totally and utterly and not leaving anything there, because we need to know how to read and to write and to do math. These are tools. It's what happens when you tell people what they need to read and what they need to write. That's where it becomes wrong. That is where it becomes opinions. That is where it becomes conditioning instead of learning or knowledge. Yes. That's the thing. We need to understand, what are we teaching our children about the world? It's not about just teaching them how to read. We're actually teaching them so much more. Is it good? Is it beautiful? Is it right for them? Is it loving? That's the questions we need to ask ourselves. What we are doing is we're actually teaching them how to live in fear and close down. And that is not what we're supposed to do in this world. We're supposed to open up. So if we are going to shift our perspective, for me, it's about understanding, what do I need to create this space where I can relearn who I am? Because it's a question of relaxing into it, not a question of learning it, actually. This is why we call it relearn, because you already know. You just have to remember it. You have to go back and remember how it felt to be curious about this world, how it felt not to do things because you have to do them, but because you want to do them. There's a big difference in frequency when you start thinking this way. When you start giving yourself the respect to stop and smell a flower, and not be in such a hurry because there are practical things you need to do. There's always time to allow beauty into your reality, to create that space where you actually allow it. It's not about changing anything. It's not about working for it. It's not about pushing. It's about standing still, opening up, and allowing.
Yes.
That's the space where, with our children, not to pull them out of bed in the morning, push them into the car, drive them to school, push them out of the car, pick them up at 4 o'clock, and do everything habitually day in and day out. It's about being present. It's about allowing the space. It's about creating the space, literally by yourself, creating it, because no one can stop you from doing that. You're doing it in your own space, in your own self. That's where it starts. It's not about going out there redesigning the entire system. It's about shifting perspective from fear dodging to joy seeking, from no time to eternal time.
Yes.
And teaching your children that. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Yes, in teaching the children that, and also as adults, this is, I think, an important point. Yesterday, I was on a podcast, and I realized one of the things that keeps us stuck is if we had a great experience, we don't want to look back at it because we feel like if we look back at it and judge it, it takes away from the great experience. And the truth is, both can be true at the exact same time.
Yes.
We can love our school experience and also look, how am I affected from every interaction, encounter, and then look, do I want to keep any of those imprints on me today, or discard them and release them, and I can still love this. Same thing goes with parents.
Yes.
If someone wasn't growing up in a traumatized home, but the parents still have imprints that they're passing on to the children, they might have it might have been the most benevolent, beautiful, harmonious, love-filled environment, but something got passed on. So it's not to look at the parents and to say, I don't love them or they did something bad. You can still love them and look and say, what imprints did they bring onto me that I did not choose for myself, nor do I want to continue? And that I feel like people need that permission. We can look at both and you can still say, I loved it. I had a great time.
Yes.
But there were imprints from school in your home life that you didn't choose for yourself. So choose them or discard them.
Exactly. It's about choosing them. I had a great experience from school because, as I said, I had hell at home and it was a picnic at school. I loved it. And yet, when I look back at it, I see that many things that I do now as a grown-up, which irritate me and which makes me feel emotional pain, come from that. Well, it's up to me to say, okay, that part of it I didn't like. This I don't believe. This I don't want. So what do I want? It's the most important. What do I want? How do I want to change it? And for me, it's about looking at it with open eyes, keep what's good and discard the rest. It's very easy. It's not about staying in it and saying, I need to change everything. But when you start awakening to this, and when more people awaken to it, that is how the system is changed. It won't change overnight, but it might change over a generation because we are waking up to what is working and what isn't working. If you're not willing to look at what didn't work for you or what isn't working, well, then no change can be done. You're either so you're absolutely right. We need to look at it and say, okay, I like this, I don't like that. It's as simple as that. Also, too, as I say, create the space where you remember how it is to play. And it's easy, you can skip around in your home. The energy in a little skip is actually inviting curiosity and play when you do that. Try it today. Everyone listening, try skipping today. It will make you feel that joyous, childish exploration mode within you. Skip around a bit and see where it leads you. Sit down in a quiet place and just be. Don't do anything else. Allow yourself to be present in the now moment without guilt tripping yourself for allowing yourself time. Because if you do not allow yourself time, well, that is an echo from the past where you were taught that everything needs to be planned. You need to have a schedule. There is a goal. You have to reach that goal. Headspace,
Yes. Yes.
get down in heart. That is eternal. It's a Sunday. You can do it. You can
Yeah.
start on a
That's
Sunday.
right. That's right. And I was gonna funny that if you don't feel comfortable doing this, then ask yourself, where did that imprint come from? I mean, it all stems back
Yes.
from some point. I think
Yes.
the school, like my brother went to 5 different elementary schools in 3 years.
Mm.
And he experienced the same thing. We both were bullied. We both, so I want to bring it back to, it's interesting. You had escape
Mhm.
at school, and there's some that continue, and I continued that, attracting the bully narcissistic male my whole adult life until I had to break the cycle and do all this. And
Mhm.
so it's not that, for those listening, it's not that it's just your parents or your school, it's that everything we're attracting right now
Yes.
is either of the frequency of our soul or the
Mm.
frequency of those imprints that we have yet to. And as everything is love, the one infinite creator being love, and the universe being love, of
Mm.
course it will give us exactly what frequency we're in, until we wake up
Yes.
and like, oh, I keep choosing this, I don't have to choose this any longer, I can release
Mm.
this, and I can receive now more of what I intentionally choose, not what I
Mm.
passively have allowed because I've not been aware.
Mm. Yeah, because the imprints that you have, they work on an unconscious level and they send out a frequency which is unconscious to you. So, of course, it will attract something that you don't want unless you've looked at it and said, I don't want this,
Mm,
because then it becomes known to you that you don't want it. Otherwise, it works underneath the surface.
right.
For, for me, it was like understanding this. Every time I find myself in a reality where I cannot identify myself with it, that means that I have allowed some kind of imprint, some kind of belief system, some kind of echo from the past
Mm,
to sneak out of my unconscious mind and into this reality, creating itself like something unknown to me, something that I don't want. The things that you don't want in your life are actually created from the subconscious mind with the imprints that you have not dealt with.
mm,
So it's a signal. If you are someplace where things are not as you want them, look at them, because just the act of looking at them, questioning them, heightens the frequency around them and creates a different reality, a more known reality to you. So just questioning stuff is enough
yes.
to change the frequency. And by the way, I need to say this before we end this Sunday live. Some people who work as teachers are angels on this earth.
Yes.
Yes. I had a teacher who changed my image of myself because he was present.
Mm,
So the the educational system as a system is flawed, but the people who work there
yes.
are underpaid
Yes.
because
Yeah.
most of them are devoted to the children that they're teaching. Most of them are an inspiration to the children that they're teaching. I had a teacher like that, and I remember him to this day because he saw me, he was present, he was always there for the kids around him. And that's something that I wouldn't change it for the world.
Mm,
So there are good things and there are bad things. And we talk about the bad things. We don't want them. So change them, discard them,
yes.
keep the good
Yes.
stuff.
Yes. Yeah, and that's a great point. In fact, while you were talking, I'm like, I need to message someone, I'm going to right after this live, of
Yeah.
another student who helped me, you get choked up, who helped me get through math, and
Mm,
selflessly. I never even asked, but
yes.
she helped me, and I guarantee I would not be here today had she not helped me in math. So I'm going to message her. So whether it's not all bad. There's beauty that comes from it. But you're right.
Yes.
We want to release the bad. We want to choose more good. But also,
Yes.
I'm right after this live going to message this beautiful soul
Mm.
that I haven't talked to since I was in junior high, but I'm friends with her on Facebook, and I'm going to thank her, and I'm going to let her know that that act of kindness, that act of love was way greater than helping me get through math. It was actually helping me get through life.
Yes, this is so beautiful. And it created a space for you to go back in time, collapse the time, and um,
Yeah.
create the beauty that it was then, which you weren't capable of receiving because you were in a too low frequency. And today, when you're not afraid, when you're not in that low frequency, you can see it for what it was, the truth behind it. This is how much this frequency thing does. When you are in a fear frequency, you can't see it if it's higher than the frequency of fear. It's invisible to you. And then when you start operating on a higher frequency, it becomes visible. And it's never too late because you can go back and
Right.
you can shift it. It's collapsing time. It is collapsing quantum time, actually, what you're going to do today. I'm
Yes.
so happy for her because she
Yeah.
doesn't know.
She doesn't know it's gonna be. She's gonna get love bombed here in a little bit. It's gonna be great.
Yay! We love that.
Oh
Love
my
bomb
love
your
bomb.
angels from school,
Yes.
teachers,
Yes.
other students.
Yes.
Love bomb them.
Yes.
Help them see. Yes, help them see how much they meant to you. Help them. That's a way to release the negative frequency from education. It is to take control of it over it and actually go back there and say everything you wanted to say then, say it now.
Yes. Yes. It's never too late. It's never
No,
too late. Never too late. This
never ever is it too late.
this is fun.
It can't, as long as you're breathing, it's never too late.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. These are I love these. I
Yes.
love these conversations. I wish I would have had this,
Yeah.
you can't wish I mean, but these are I mean, obviously I reflected while we're talking like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go do something right now. This is such
Mm,
beauty. And
mm.
this is where the freedom to explore comes in. This is why if whoever's listening, if you have not bought Gordana's book yet, please do so and read it. I've I've read it twice and I feel like I've started the third time. It is so good. Know the truth. It's just explore and help for a second. Give yourself reprieve from the have to do anything, but you can get to do everything once you know the truth and know who you are, and it changes everything.
It most certainly does, because the only truth that is unchangeable is that our source is unconditional love.
Mm,
The thing that we are creating this reality in, the material that this reality is created from, is unconditional love.
mm, it's beautiful.
That's the only truth. Everything else is an illusion, and we are here to choose which illusion we want to explore.
Mm, yeah.
There is choose what illusion you want to explore in this unconditional loving sea around you.
Yes.
Choosing is the most important thing to understand. You can choose whatever you want to do, as you chose right now to say to yourself, I am going to contact her and tell her you made a choice, and you're going to act upon that choice, and you're going to bring love, more love into this reality.
Yes. Yes.
As simple as that.
It's beautiful.
I love that. I wish I could do the same with my teacher, but he passed away many years ago. But I can think about him today, and
Yeah.
I can light a candle for him and allow his spirit to be here.
Yeah.
That's what I am going to
Emanate.
do.
Beautiful.
Yes,
This
yes.
is good. Wow, this is great. Oh, thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you for another beautiful
thank you.
Sunday live. This is great.
Thank you
Everyone, thank you
too.
for watching. Um, and if you don't, Gordana puts these on her YouTube channel, so make sure you go and subscribe to her. I'm actually going to create a new playlist on my YouTube page so we can sync them all there and have that so more people can see them. And
Yes.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you too, Lucas. And thank you everyone for giving us an hour of your life today.
Yes.